Can't sleep? Reddit's weirdest stories, whispered tales, and endless rabbit holes are the secret sleep hack you need. Let's find the most relaxing and bizarre threads to knock you out fast. Warning, these Reddit horror stories will haunt your sleep. You've been warned. Sweet dreams, or not. I'm a long-haul trucker. I stopped for a lost kid on a deserted highway in the dead of night. What I saw attached to him, and the question he asked, is why I don't drive anymore. This happened a few years back. I was doing long-haul, mostly cross-country routes, the kind that take you through vast stretches of nothing. You know, the ones where the radio turns to static for hours, and the only sign of life is the occasional pair of headlights going the other way, miles apart. I was young, eager for the miles, the money, didn't mind the solitude, or so I thought. The route I was on took me across a long, desolate stretch of highway that ran between the borders of two large governmental territories. I don't want to say exactly where, but think big, empty spaces, lots of trees, not much else. It was notorious among drivers for being a dead zone, no signal, no towns for 100 miles either side, and prone to weird weather. Most guys tried to hit it during daylight, but schedules are schedules. Mine had me crossing it deep in the night. I remember the feeling. Utter blackness outside the sweep of my headlights. The kind of dark that feels like it's pressing in on the cab. The only sounds were the drone of the diesel engine, the hiss of the air brakes now and then, and the rhythmic thrum of the tires on asphalt. Hypnotic, too hypnotic. I'd been driving for about 10 hours, with a short break a few states back. Coffee was wearing off. The dashboard lights were a dull green glow, comforting in a way, but also making the darkness outside seem even more absolute. My eyelids felt like they had lead weights attached. You fight it, you know. Slap your face, roll down the window for a blast of cold air. Crank up whatever music you can find that hasn't dissolved into static. I was doing all of that. It must have been around 2 or 3 a.m. I was in that weird state where you're not quite asleep, but not fully awake either. Like your brain is running on low power mode. The white lines on the road were starting to blur together, stretching and warping. Standard fatigue stuff. I remember blinking hard, trying to refocus. That's when I saw it, or thought I saw it. Just a flicker at the edge of my headlights, on the right shoulder of the road. Small, low to the ground. For a split second, I registered a shape, vaguely human-like, and then it was gone, swallowed by the darkness as I passed. My first thought, deer or a coyote, common enough, but it hadn't moved like an animal. It had been upright. My brain, sluggish as it was, tried to process it. Too small for an adult. Too still for an animal startled by a rig. Then the logical part, the part that was still trying to keep me safe on the road, chimed in. You're tired. Seeing things. Happens. And I almost accepted that. I really did. Shook my head, took a swig of lukewarm water from the bottle beside me, kept my eyes glued to the road ahead. The image, though it kind of stuck, a small, upright shape, like a child. No way, I told myself. Out here, middle of nowhere, middle of the night. Impossible. Kids don't just wander around on inter-territorial highways at 3 a.m. It had to be a trick of the light, a bush, my eyes playing games. I've seen weirder things born of exhaustion. Shadows that dance, trees that look like figures. It's part of the job when you're pushing limits. I drove on for maybe another 30 seconds, the image fading, my rational mind starting to win. Just a figment. Then, I glanced at my passenger side mirror, habit, always checking, and my blood went cold. Not just cold, it felt like it turned to slush. There, illuminated faintly by the red glow of my trailer lights receding into the distance, was the reflection of a small figure standing on the shoulder of the road, exactly where I'd thought I'd seen something. It wasn't a bush, it wasn't a shadow, it was small, and it was definitely standing there, unmoving. As my truck pulled further and further away, my heart started hammering against my ribs. This wasn't fatigue, this was real. There was someone, something, back there, and it looked tiny. Every instinct screamed at me. Danger, wrong, keep going. But another voice, the one that makes us human, I suppose, whispered something else. A kid, alone out here. What if they're hurt? Lost? I fought with myself for a few seconds that stretched into an eternity. The image in the mirror was getting smaller, fainter. If I didn't act now, they'd be lost to the darkness again. God, the thought of leaving a child out there, if that's what it was, against my better judgment, against that primal urge to just floor it, I made a decision. I slowed the rig, the air brakes hissing like angry snakes, pulled over to the shoulder, the truck groaning in protest, put on my hazards, their rhythmic flashing cutting into the oppressive blackness. Then, I did what you're never supposed to do with a full trailer on a narrow shoulder. I started to reverse, slowly, carefully, my eyes flicking between the mirrors, trying to keep the trailer straight, trying to relocate that tiny figure. The crunch of gravel under the tires sounded unnaturally loud. It took a minute, maybe two, but it felt like an hour. The red glow of my tail lights eventually washed over the spot again, and there it was, a kid. I stopped the truck, so my cab was roughly alongside them, maybe 10 feet away. Switched on the high beams, hoping to get a better look, and also to make myself clearly visible as just a truck, not something else, The kid was small, really small, I'd guess maybe 6, 7 years old. Hard to tell in the glare. They were just standing there, on the very edge of the gravel shoulder, right where the trees began. The woods pressed in close on this stretch of road, tall, dark pines and dense undergrowth that looked like a solid black wall just beyond the reach of my lights. The kid wasn't looking at me. They were facing sort of parallel to the road, just walking, slowly, like they were on a stroll, completely oblivious to the massive 18-wheeler that had just pulled up beside them. Engine rumbling, lights blazing. They were wearing what looked like pajamas. Thin, light-colored pajamas, in the chill of the night. No coat, no shoes that I could see. My mind reeled. This was wrong. So many levels of wrong. I killed the engine. The sudden silence was almost deafening, amplifying the crickets, the rustle of leaves in the woods from a breeze I couldn't feel in the cab. My heart was still thumping, a weird mix of fear and adrenaline and a dawning sense of responsibility rolled down the window. The night air hit me, cold and damp, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. "Hey," I called out. My voice sounded hoarse, too loud in the quiet. "Hey, kid." No response. They just kept walking, one small bare foot in front of the other, at a pace that was taking them absolutely nowhere fast. Their head was down, slightly. I couldn't see their face properly. "Kid, are you okay?" I tried again, louder this time. Slowly, so slowly, the kid stopped. They didn't turn their head fully, just sort of angled it, a fraction. Enough that I could see a pale sliver of cheek in the spill of my headlights. Still not looking at me. Still ignoring the multi-ton machine idling beside them. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. Not the normal kind of unease. This was deeper, colder. Animals act weird sometimes, but kids, a lost kid should be scared, relieved, something. This one was nothing. "What are you doing out here all alone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, friendly, like you're supposed to with a scared kid, even though this one didn't seem scared at all. It's the middle of the night. Silence. Just the sound of their bare feet scuffing softly on the gravel as they took another step, then another. As if my presence was a minor inconvenience, a background noise they were choosing to ignore. This wasn't right. My internal alarm bells were clanging louder now. My hand hovered near the gear stick. Part of me wanted to slam it into drive and get the hell out of there. But the image of this tiny child, alone, possibly in shock, I couldn't just leave. Could I? "Where are your parents?" I pushed, my voice a bit sharper than I intended. "Are you lost?" Finally, the kids stopped walking completely. They turned their head just a little more. Still not looking directly at my cab, more towards the front of my truck, into the glare of the headlights. I could see their face a bit better now, pale, featureless in the harsh light, like a porcelain doll. Small, dark smudges that might have been eyes. No expression, none. Not fear, not sadness, not relief, just blank. An unreadable slate. Then a voice. Small, thin, like the rustle of dry leaves. Lost. Just that one word. It hung in the air between us. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a fresh wave of concern. "Okay, lost. That's something I can deal with. Okay, kid. Lost is okay. We can fix lost. Where do you live? Where were you going?" The kid, finally, slowly, turned their head fully towards my cab. Towards me. I still couldn't make out much detail in their face. The angle, the light, something was obscuring it, keeping it in a sort of shadowy vagueness, despite the headlights. But I could feel their gaze. It wasn't like a normal kid's look. There was a weight to it, an intensity that was deeply unsettling for such a small form. "Home," the kid said. That same thin, reedy voice. "Trying to get home, right? Home." "Where is home?" I asked, leaning forward a bit, trying to project reassurance. "Is it near here? Did you wander off from a campsite? A car?" There were no campsites for miles. No broken down cars on the shoulder. I knew that. The kid didn't answer that question directly. Instead, they took a small step towards the truck, then another. My hand tensed on the door handle, ready to open it, to offer what? A ride? Shelter? I didn't know. "It's cold out here," I said, stating the obvious. "You should get in. We can get you warm, and I can call for help when we get to a spot with a signal." My CB was useless, just static. My phone had shown no service for the last hour. The kid stopped about 5 feet from my passenger door, still in that pale, thin pajama-like outfit, barefoot on the sharp gravel. They should be shivering, crying. They were doing neither. "Can you help me?" the kid asked. The voice was still small, but there was a different inflection to it now. Less flat, a hint of something else. Pleading, maybe. "Yeah, of course, I can help you," I said. "That's why I stopped. Where are your parents? How did you get here?" The kid tilted their head. A jerky, unnatural little movement. "They're waiting at home." "Okay, and where's home? Which direction?" I gestured vaguely up and down the empty highway. The kid didn't point down the road. They made a small, subtle gesture with their head, a little nod towards the trees, towards the impenetrable darkness of the woods lining the highway. In there, the kid said. My stomach clenched. In the woods? Your home is in the woods? Lost, the kid repeated, as if that explained everything. Trying to find the path. It's dark. Yeah, it's very dark, I agreed, my eyes scanning the tree line. It looked like a solid wall of black. No sign of any path, any habitation, just dense, old-growth forest. The kind of place you could get lost in for days, even in daylight. Can you come out? The kid asked. Help me look. It's not far. I can't see it from here. Every rational thought in my head screamed, no, get out of the truck. In the middle of nowhere, in the pitch dark, with this strange child who wanted me to go into those woods. No, absolutely not. But the kid looked so small, so vulnerable. If there was even a tiny chance they were telling the truth, that their house was just a little way in, and they were genuinely lost. I don't think that's a good idea, buddy, I said, trying to sound gentle. It's dangerous in there at night. For both of us. Best thing is for you to hop in here with me. We'll drive until we get a signal, and then we'll call the police or the rangers. They can help find your home properly. The kid just stood there, that blank, unreadable face fixed on me. But it's right there, they insisted, their voice a little more insistent now. Just a little way. I can almost see it. If you just step out, the light from your door would help. My skin was crawling. There was something profoundly wrong with this scenario. The way they were trying to coax me out. The lack of normal emotional response. The pajamas. The bare feet. The woods. I looked closer at the kid, trying to pierce that strange vagueness around their features. My headlights were bright, but it was like they absorbed the light rather than reflected it. Their eyes, I still couldn't really see their eyes. Just dark hollows. I really think you should get in the truck, I said, my voice firmer now. It's warmer in here. We can figure it out together. The kid took another step closer. They were almost at my running board now. Please, they said. That reedy voice again. My leg hurts. I can't walk much further. If you could just help me a little. Just to the path. My internal conflict was raging. My trucker instincts, honed by years of seeing weird stuff and hearing weirder stories at truck stops, were blaring warnings. But the human part, the part that saw a child in distress, was still there, still arguing. I was tired. So damn tired. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight. Maybe this was all some bizarre misunderstanding. I squinted, trying to see past the kid, towards the tree line they'd indicated. Was there a faint trail I was missing? A flicker of light, deep in the woods? No, nothing. Just blackness. Solid, unyielding blackness. And then I saw it. It wasn't something I saw clearly at first. It was more like an anomaly. A disturbance in the darkness behind the kid. The kid was standing with their back mostly to the woods, facing my truck. Behind them, the darkness of the forest was absolute. Or it should have been. But there was something connected to them. Something that stretched from the small of their back, from under the thin pajama top, and disappeared into the deeper shadows of the trees. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a weird shadow cast by my headlights, hitting them at an odd angle. Maybe a rope they were dragging. A piece of clothing snagged on a branch. I leaned forward, trying to get a clearer view. The kid was still talking, their voice a low, persistent murmur. It's not far, please, just help me, I'm so cold. But I wasn't really listening to the words anymore. I was focused on that thing behind them. It wasn't a rope. It wasn't a shadow. It was a tube. A long, dark, thick tube. It seemed to emerge directly from the kid's lower back, impossibly, seamlessly. It was dark matte, like a strip of the night itself, given form, and it snaked away from the child, maybe 10, 15 feet, before disappearing into the inky blackness between two thick pine trunks. It wasn't rigid. It seemed to have a slight, almost imperceptible flexibility, like a massive, sluggish, umbilical cord made of shadow. It didn't reflect any light from my headlamps. It just absorbed it. My breath hitched in my throat. My blood, which had been cold before, now felt like it had frozen solid. This wasn't just wrong. This was impossible, unnatural. The kid was still trying to coax me. Are you going to help me? It's just there. You're so close. My voice, when I finally found it, was barely a whisper. I couldn't take my eyes off that appendage. Kid, what is that? Behind you. The kid flinched. Not a big movement, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tightening of their small frame. Their head, which had been tilted pleadingly, straightened. The blankness on their face seemed to solidify. What's what? They asked, their voice suddenly devoid of that pleading tone. It was flat again, colder. That thing, I stammered, pointing with a shaking finger, coming out of your back, going into the woods. What is that? The kid didn't turn to look. They didn't need to. Their gaze, those dark, unseen eyes, bored into me. It's nothing, they said. The voice was still small, but it had a new edge to it, a hardness. You're seeing things. You're tired. They were using my own earlier rationalization against me. No, I said, my voice gaining a tremor of conviction born of sheer terror. No, I'm not. I see it. It's right there. It's connected to you. The kid was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the thumping of my own heart, so loud I was sure they could hear it. The crickets had stopped. The wind seemed to die down. An unnatural stillness fell over the scene. Then, the kid's face began to change. It wasn't a dramatic, movie monster transformation. It was far more subtle, and far more terrifying. The blankness didn't leave, but it sharpened. The pale skin seemed to tighten over the bones. The areas where the eyes were, those dark smudges, seemed to deepen, to become more shadowed, more intense, and a flicker of something ancient and utterly alien passed across their features. It wasn't human anger. It was something older, colder, and infinitely more patient, now strained to its limit. The air in my cab suddenly felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe. The areas where the eyes were, those dark smudges, seemed to deepen, to become more shadowed, more intense, and a flicker of something ancient and utterly alien passed across their features. It wasn't human anger. It was something older, colder, and infinitely more patient, now strained to its limit. The air in my cab suddenly felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe. My hand, which had been hovering near the gear stick, now gripped it like a lifeline. My other hand fumbled for the ignition key, which I'd stupidly left in. What are you? I choked out, staring at the monstrous thing playing dress-up in a child's form, at the dark, pulsating tube that was its anchor to the shadows. The kid's head tilted again, that jerky, unnatural movement. The expression on its face, if you could call it that, was one of pure, unadulterated annoyance, contempt, like I was a particularly stupid insect it had failed to swat. And then it spoke, in that same terrible, resonant, grinding voice. The words it said are burned into my memory, colder than any winter night. Why? It rasped, the sound seeming to scrape the inside of my skull. The fuck, are humans smarter now? That was it. That one sentence. The sheer, cosmic frustration in it. The implication of past encounters, of easier prey. The utter alien nature of it, ... I didn't think, I didn't plan. I reacted. Primal fear, the kind that bypasses all higher brain function, took over. My hand twisted the key. The diesel engine roared back to life, a sudden, violent explosion of sound in the horrifying stillness. The kid, the thing, actually recoiled, a small, jerky step back. The expression, that awful, tightened, ancient look, intensified. I slammed the gear stick into drive. My foot stomped on the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning on the gravel for a terrifying second before they bit into the asphalt. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. I stared straight ahead, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, the whole cab vibrating around me, ... The truck surged forward, gaining speed with agonizing slowness. For a horrible moment, I imagined that tube thing whipping out, trying to snag the trailer, to pull me back, to drag me into those woods. I imagined that small figure, with its ancient, terrible voice, somehow keeping pace. I risked a glance in my driver's side mirror. It was standing there, on the shoulder, unmoving. The headlights of my departing truck cast its small silhouette into sharp relief, and behind it, the dark tube was still visible, a thick, obscene cord snaking back into the endless night of the forest. It didn't seem to be retracting or moving, it just was. The thing didn't pursue, it just stood and watched me go. And that, somehow, was almost worse. The sheer confidence, the patience, like it knew there would be others. Or maybe it was just annoyed that this particular attempt had failed. I drove, I don't know for how long, I just drove. My foot was welded to the floor. The engine screamed. I watched the speedometer needle climb, far past any legal or safe limit for a rig that size, on a road that dark. I didn't care. The image of that thing, that child shape with its dark umbilical to the woods, and that voice, that awful, grinding voice, asking its horrifying question, was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. I must have driven for an hour, maybe more, at speeds that should have gotten me killed or arrested, before the adrenaline started to fade, replaced by a bone-deep, shaking exhaustion that was more profound than any fatigue I'd ever known. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely keep the wheel straight. Tears were streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from sheer, unadulterated terror and relief. When the first hint of dawn started to grey the eastern sky, and my phone finally beeped, indicating a single bar of service, I pulled over at the first wide spot I could find. I practically fell out of the cab, vomiting onto the gravel, until there was nothing left but dry heaves. I sat there on the cold ground, shaking, for a long time, watching the sun come up, trying to convince myself that it had been a dream, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion, but I knew it wasn't. The detail of that tube, the voice, the question, you don't hallucinate something that specific, that coherent, that utterly alien. I never reported it. Who would I report it to? What would I say? Officer, I saw a little kid who was actually an ancient cosmic horror tethered to the woods by a nightmare umbilical cord, and it got mad because I didn't want to be its dinner. They'd have locked me up, breathalyzed me, drug-tested me, sent me for a psych evil. I finished that run on autopilot, dropped the load, drove my rig back to the yard, and I quit. I told them I was burned out, needed a break. They tried to convince me to stay, offered me different routes, more pay. I just couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kid, that tube, those woods. Every dark road felt like a trap. I found a local job, something that keeps me home at night. I don't drive in remote areas anymore if I can help it. Especially not at night. I still have nightmares. Sometimes, when I'm very tired, driving home late from somewhere, I'll see a flicker at the edge of my vision, on the side of the road, and my heart will try to beat its way out of my chest. I don't know what that thing was, an alien, a demon, something else, something that doesn't fit into our neat little categories. All I know is that it's out there, and it's patient, and it seems to have learned that its old tricks aren't as effective as they used to be. Why the fuck are humans smarter now? That question haunts me. It implies they weren't always. It implies that, once upon a time, we were easier. That maybe, just maybe, people like me, tired and alone on dark roads, used to just step out of the cab when asked, and were never seen again. So, if you're ever driving one of those long, lonely stretches of road, deep in the night, and you see something you can't explain, maybe just keep driving. Maybe being smarter now means knowing when not to stop. Knowing when to ignore that little voice telling you to help, because what's asking for help might not be what it seems. Stay safe out there, and for God's sake, stay on the well-lit roads. Story 2. Every night at 3 a.m., I hear my dead brother asking me to open the door. I haven't told anyone this. Not my family, not my friends. I'm not even sure why I'm writing it down here. I guess I just need someone to believe me. Or at least, to read this before it happens again tonight. It's been exactly 1 year since my younger brother, Elias, died. He was 3 years younger than me, but always seemed older, calmer, kinder, more grounded. While I was the loud one, the one who pushed boundaries, Elias was the type to read in silence, to smile without needing a reason. The cancer hit fast. Acute leukemia. The doctors didn't sugarcoat it. They gave us a few months, maybe, but in the end, it was barely 8 weeks. I spent most of that time with him. I helped him eat when he couldn't lift his arms, held his hand when he was too weak to speak, tried to joke around just to make him laugh. In the final hours, when he was barely there, he looked right at me, not scared, not sad, just knowing. "Don't stay alone," he whispered. That was the last thing he ever said. After that, everything shut down. There was a flat line on the monitor, a few soft words from the nurse, and then nothing. The world just ... stopped. I didn't cry much, not at first. I think part of me refused to believe he was really gone. I disconnected from everything: school, friends, routines. I slept all day, stayed awake all night, barely ate. I thought maybe the silence would help me process it. Instead, it left space for something else. The first time I heard his voice again, it was around 3 a.m. I hadn't been asleep, just lying there, staring at the ceiling, the window cracked open to let in the late October wind. "Are you there?" It was faint, soft, coming from the hallway. I froze. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew that voice. I got up, opened the door, turned on the lights. Nothing. Every door was locked, windows closed, no sound except my own heartbeat. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same voice. "Are you there?" I told myself it was a trick of memory. Auditory hallucinations, lack of sleep that made sense, right? But the voice kept coming back, every night, at 3 a.m. sharp. And then the footsteps started, soft, deliberate steps, across the hallway floor, stopping just outside my bedroom. Never louder than a whisper, but impossible to ignore. Eventually, I started locking my door at night. I played white noise, music, anything. Sometimes I'd fall asleep with a podcast playing just to drown it out. But none of it worked. The sound always cut through. Always him. Then came the knocking, ... 3 soft taps. Then his voice, closer now. Please, open the door. It never sounded threatening, not angry or vengeful, just pleading, almost sad. I told myself I wouldn't give in. I wasn't going to open the door. I wasn't going to play into whatever this was, grief, trauma, madness. But it didn't stop. Then it got worse. I started finding things around the apartment, objects I hadn't seen in years. Stuff I knew was in a box on the attic, sealed and forgotten. A small, worn-out toy dinosaur on the windowsill. His favorite, the one he carried everywhere as a kid. A half-drunk Capri Sun on the kitchen table, wild cherry, the exact flavor he used to beg Mum to buy. Each day, something new. Each night, his voice, like the past, was leaking into the present. Or something was trying to lure me back. Last night, I found his old diary on my desk. It had gone with him to the hospital. I'd packed it in his bag. He never wrote much in it, but it was something that brought him comfort. It never came back home with us. I'm absolutely certain of that, ... And yet, there it was. Dusty, locked, familiar. I opened it. Only one sentence had been added, written in a shaky but unmistakable hand on the last page. I found a place for you. I've tried everything. I left town, booked hotel rooms, stayed with friends. I even rented a cabin hours away, in the middle of nowhere, and turned off my phone. But no matter where I go at 3 a.m., I hear him, even when I'm awake, ... Even when I know he can't possibly be there. And every night, his voice changes. Just a little, subtle at first. A slightly slower rhythm, a flatter tone, like a recording wearing down, like a mask slowly slipping. If it's really Elias, why does he sound less and less like himself with every visit? Tonight is the anniversary of his death. 1 full year, and I'm hearing him already. No waiting for 3 a.m. this time. He's early. I hear footsteps in the hallway, slower than usual, more deliberate, closer than the whisper. Please, open the door. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. Every part of me screams not to, but something inside me is whispering that tonight is different. That if I open it now, it might finally end. That maybe I'll see him just one more time. That maybe it won't stop unless I do. I'm standing up now. I'm walking to the door. My hand is on the lock. I'm going to open it. Story 3. We put trail cams all over the mountain. Something keeps moving them closer to the cabin. I took a seasonal ranger job in the Cascades. Mostly isolation stuff, watching fire lines, logging trail damage, monitoring wildlife. A few radio check-ins a day, and the rest of the time was mine. Perfect gig for someone trying to get away. The cabin I was assigned sits about 12 miles from the nearest road. Old place, nothing fancy. Radio tower, generator, propane stove, no internet, no cell service. Just me, the trees, and a whole lot of quiet. I liked it. Until the 3rd week. That's when the noises started. Not animals, not weather, footsteps. They were subtle at first, slow, heavy, always at night. I'd hear them circling the cabin 4, or 5 paces at a time, then nothing for hours. I set up trail cams, 8 of them, motion triggered, infrared. I nailed them to trees in a perimeter pattern. The next morning, I found all 8 on the ground. Not broken, not chewed, just unscrewed from the trees and placed neatly in a pile beside the front steps. Like a message, like a warning, I put them back up. 2 days later, they were closer. 3 of them had been moved, not far, just 10 feet in. Angled toward the windows now. I didn't sleep that night. I brought the cams inside that morning, locked the door behind me, double-checked the windows. Each camera had about 5 hours of footage, mostly empty woods, the occasional raccoon, branches swaying in the wind. But then I got to the 5th one, time stamp, 2:13 a.m. movement. The camera jolts slightly, like someone's adjusting it. Then it re-angles itself, pointing not at the trail, but at the cabin window. Mine, the one facing my bed. It sat still for 2 full minutes. Then something stepped into frame. Not all at once, just a shoulder, then a leg, long, thin, but covered in something dark and matted, like wet bark or hair. It moved slow, too slow, like it didn't care if it was seen. Then it turned, just its head, and I swear to God, it looked at the camera, right at it. Then frame by frame it smiled. Not human, not animal, just a jagged split of dark between fur, and behind it, another face, smaller, pressed against the glass of the cabin window. Looking in, I packed within 10 minutes. Clothes, knife, batteries, radio. I didn't even turn the generator off. I just left. I took the west trail steeper, but faster. It runs past 3 old fire lookouts and hits the service road at mile 12. From there, it's a 5-mile descent to where I parked the truck. I made it 3 miles before I realized I wasn't alone. It wasn't footsteps. It was the silence. Birds, insects, even wind gone. Like the forest had sucked in a breath and was holding it. That's when I saw the first cairn, stacked stones. 6 of them, carefully balanced in the middle of the trail. Nothing odd on its own, except there was a scrap of red flannel tucked beneath the top stone. I didn't own anything red. A mile later, I saw another. This one had a tooth resting on top, human. I kept moving. Didn't stop to breathe. Just head down, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, until I looked up and saw the cabin. My cabin. The same stack of cameras in a pile by the steps. Same dent in the railing from when I slipped hauling wood last week. I'd walked for 5 hours in one direction, and somehow I'd come back. There were fresh footprints on the porch, but only one set, mine. I didn't go inside. I just sat on the porch, staring at the footprints. Same tread pattern, same width, same weight distribution. Mine. But I don't remember walking in circles. I don't remember coming back. I checked my phone. The timestamp said 3:08 p.m. Then 3:08 p.m. again. Then 3:07. I checked the radio. Dead. No static. Just that same low hum, like a throat clearing on the other end of the line. I stayed outside until dusk. Didn't eat. Didn't move. When the first shadow passed between the trees, I almost didn't see it. It didn't move like anything should. Didn't step or glide. It just shifted like something flickering between places. I backed toward the door. The handle was warm. Inside, everything was where I left it. Bags still packed. Flashlight on the floor. Window cracked open just a bit. and something new. A photo, resting in the center of the bed. It was old, weathered, black and white. 5 men in ranger uniforms, cabin in the background. All of them smiling, all of them with my face, and behind them, a shape in the tree line, barely visible, except for the eyes, reflective, watching. I turned the photo over. Someone had written something in pencil, faded, almost gone. "Don't forget which one you are." I tried to laugh, but I couldn't remember what my voice sounded like. Thanks for watching. Hope these Reddit sleep hacks help you drift off faster tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our next relaxation tip. Sweet dreams.